Hello. Exciting news. I fell. I fell and injured myself worse than I've been injured in quite a while. And again, in absence of my therapist, who's on mat leave, I thought I would use the power of vlogging, if you could call this a vlog, I guess, to just kind of talk about how I'm feeling about it, what the experience was like, some associated emotions, some associated events. Just kind of get it out there. I think that would be cathartic for me and kind of use it as a signal in my own mind of like, okay, we're like through this, if that makes sense. Even though we're not really totally through this. So let me set the stage. This happened a week ago Monday, so about 10 days ago. It's game 7 of the Blue Jays versus the Mariners. Winner goes to the World Series. It would be the first time that the Mariners have ever been there, and the first time the Blue Jays have been there in around 30 years. So pretty high tensions, and as any good urbanist, I am a loyal bandwagoner of all our local teams. I overall like baseball, we actually did go to a Jays game in the regular season. That was a lot of fun. And it's not like, I'd ever go out of my way to avoid watching baseball or anything, but I don't really go out of my way to watch a ton of it either. But yeah, when it's something this decisive, something this historic, with this much on the line, I'm definitely starting to tune in for like every game. I was on my way to go to a sports bar to watch it with my boyfriend and another friend of ours. I'm getting kind of like off the curb into the street, and I don't know if I just shifted my weight weird or there was some strange geometry on the pavement, but my ankle just rolls right over. I'm like flung forward. I'm stumbling forward. I do, in retrospect, very stupid thing, which is try to break my fall with my arms, putting them out like this. And there's a term for this. It's a foosh, falling on outstretched hands, and it's bad because in the worst case scenario, you just slam on your wrist and shatter it. But I kind of like fell mostly on my right side, and immediately I knew that this was bad, that I'd fucked up, that this was not just, inconsequential. And a whole bunch of adrenaline hit, like, all at once, and I just started screaming, like, fuck! Ow! Fuck! Ow! Ow! And I think this is because I've read a study that if you, like, scream and swear when you get hurt, the pain is actually lessened, because the pain was like really bad in that moment, in that initial moment. I was like kind of scrambling to like move or anything. A very nice person who had seen me fall ran over, made sure that the cars waiting at the intersection had seen me and weren't about to plow into me or anything like that. Helped me up, was like, hey, do you want to sit down? Do you want to sit down? I was like, yeah, maybe. There was like a fire hydrant. They set their skateboarding on the fire hydrant so I could sit on the skateboard, and that was very nice. And then I kind of like assessed the damage a little bit. I like moved all of the joints in my arm, and it hurt quite badly, but I could like move them. And in my mind, I'm like, if you can move them, that means it's not broken, which I don't know if that's true or not. But in my mind at the time, I was like, okay, that means I'm like fine. That means like I don't need to go to the hospital or anything. Um, oh, my washing just finished unexpectedly. It told me I had 40 minutes left on the washing. All right, 1 second. We're gonna move the laundry. Oh, okay. We're back. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I think I'm all right. I'm gonna go watch the game. I was wearing my Jays jersey that I got earlier, when we for going to the game we saw. They were like, hey, yeah, all right, good luck. Hope we win. I walked down to the sports bar. I flopped down. Everybody met me there, and the adrenaline of like the injury just like seamlessly bled into the adrenaline of watching an extremely pivotal game that we were losing most of the time until we hit this massive comeback homer. It was an excruciating experience mentally, and then occasionally physically. Like, I tried to put my hair up to eat some chicken wings, or I like reached down to my bag or whatever, and then it would just be like a bullet of pain shoots through my arm, and then I'm like, that's not good. But I was so locked in on the game that I didn't really think about it. It was only after the joy we won, by the way, and in case you guys didn't know, we're going to the World Series. We're in the World Series. We're up through 3-2 in the World Series. Crazy how quickly sports moves. This is all in the past 10 days. It was only after all that, and we were kind of, the emotions were dying down and everything, that I realized, like, oh, this is kind of bad. Like, I think I'm actually, like, pretty badly injured. I couldn't, like, do stuff, like, I couldn't get my shirt off. My boyfriend had to help with that. I had to, like, do a lot of stuff with my left hand, but my left hand was kind of hurting too because I kind of smashed the palm into the ground as well. So that was very inconvenient. There's a lot of things that I'd, like, never probably done in my life with my left hand, like brushing my teeth, that felt, like, really odd and uncomfortable. And I think because I had to, like, favor my right arm so much, just kind of threw my whole body out of whack, and I just felt very stiff and sore all over almost immediately. I had a really hard time falling asleep. But my mentality was like, if I'm worse in the morning, if it hurts even worse, then I'll go see a doctor. But if it's better in the morning, then maybe we're good. And I talked to a friend of mine who's like a physiotherapist, RN, who does like all sorts of rehab and stuff, like physical rehab for hospital patients. And she said largely the same, and recommended some stuff to try. So I was like, okay, this is maybe fine. I think I probably sprained it. I think I probably sprained my wrist and my shoulder. I have like a gnarly ass bruise on my wrist still, but the shoulder didn't really. It doesn't show up on camera. You'll have to take my word for it. It's gross. It was even worse a few days ago. But yeah, I figured I sprained it because I did get better in the morning. It was already feeling a lot better. The improvement after night one was definitely the most dramatic. But it was still very sore. The mobility was still very bad. And that just kind of built up day by day, that my mobility came back and the soreness dissipated. And now it's at a level where it feels pretty much normal, except occasionally I'll do something stupid. Like if I'm lying down and resting on it, and then I try to like shift my weight only using that arm. Ow, 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 and then the pain doesn't go away for a while. And I'm still doing a lot of stuff, like I'm icing it or going to the hot tub, which confused me at first because I'm like, surely either ice or hot tub is correct. How would both of those be helpful? But in fact, yeah, you're supposed to ice it for a bit and then go to the hot tub, and it's like the cycle of cooling and heating is good for it. So yeah, it was pretty bad. Like I said, I don't think I've been injured this bad since I broke bones as like a kid or something. It was, well, we'll get into it. It led to a lot of things. I broke these down into little slides and stuff. First, let's talk about rest and relaxation. So if you watched my life stats video, I talked quite a bit about how I've been basically trying to like spreadsheet hack or autism hack my executive functioning to get myself to do things I want to do more consistently, more frequently, more reliably, and it had been working pretty good. I talked in that video as well about setting up a weekly system on top of a daily checklist, a weekly checklist, and that was actually going pretty well as well. Obviously, not a flawless system, not a perfect system, results may vary, but for me, it felt like I was really making progress with this. And basically, it started becoming a question in my mind of like, how long can I keep this up for? Am I ever going to like take a break? I kind of foresaw if I have to travel for whatever reason, or if I go on vacation or whatever, there's major disruptions to my lifestyle. that would be the opportunity in which I would just kind of like stop for a bit, and that would probably be good, and just kind of see how that felt, blah blah blah. But this seemed like it was forcing me to put me in a situation where doing a lot of my daily tasks, I think, would have been painful. Moreover, I read everywhere, okay, you gotta let it rest, which was a little counterintuitive to me because for some reason I had the mentality of like, oh, I should like use my arm and keep it limber, keep it loose, and keep expanding like the range of motions that are comfortable. Get my strength back, get my grip strength back, all that stuff. But no, that was bad. That was incorrect thinking. Although that pervasive line of thinking kept sinking into me. But yeah, it was like, oh, okay, you know, I want to make a YouTube short every day for the Pokemon project. Well, moving the mouse and clicking around and everything, that's going to be probably strenuous and painful. Let's just say I don't have to do it. Let's just not worry about it. I'll get some X's on the daily spreadsheet, whatever, that's fine. Same with like walking, same with job applications, same with cooking, same with cleaning, just anything and everything. I just gave myself total carte blanche, total forgiveness. Until I'm feeling better, let's just forget about it. Of course, you know, I wasn't forbidden. So some things like Japanese practice I still did because I really don't want to lose my streak. It's at like 380 days now. Very proud of that. Other easier things, you know, I kept it up. But basically I was like, let's just treat this as like a vacation. Similarly, I told my workplace, hey, this happened. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to type. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to like just interface with the computer in general without it hurting. So just FYI, and then I basically just used that as an excuse to not do any of the work I didn't want to do that didn't feel that urgent. And what I found was I got over pretty quickly kind of like the sting of missing the daily tasks. Like I said, it wasn't like I was getting 100% success rate on all of those anyways. But what was encouraging is that I did kind of feel like an eagerness to go back to them. I kind of missed doing those things, which is great. That means I kind of successfully built up the habit of doing them. And like I said, it's not like I was forbidden from doing them, but I just was so paranoid about hurting myself further or getting myself into a situation where, like, let's say I go for like a walk and then something starts hurting and now I'm kind of like stranded myself, or this is going to sound absurd, but if I start working on something and then I can't execute on it because I'm starting to hurt, that would feel like stranding myself in the task, which I think would be very frustrating. So I just didn't. Same with like videos and stuff, you know, we've got a Jump video to make. I want to make the seasonal anime review video. I've just like, let's not worry about it. But I felt like a desire, you know, like it really revealed to me how much I enjoy doing a lot of these things, how much I missed not doing them, or how much I missed them when I was not doing them. So that was good. That was like a very positive kind of revelation, because I did worry, you know, this whole spreadsheet hacking, this checklist hacking of like, I got to do these things every day or else I'm going to see these red X's and feel bad. It like worked, but I did sometimes wonder, okay, like to what end? Have I just turned myself into like an automaton? And am I really getting like enjoyment out of life anymore? Am I actually getting like satisfaction and a feeling of productivity from doing these things? Or has like the snake caught its own tail and now this is just like an exercise in doing itself? But I think taking this break revealed to me that like, no, there is like a sincere desire there. There is a feeling of absence when I don't have these things in my life. This reminds me, now that I'm saying it out loud, a lot of like when I took my manga hiatus, which I also made a video about, that I did miss it. Like it confirmed to me that I missed it. I both got over it, but I also like felt its absence to an extent. Like my life became a little less rich because of its absence. Yeah. So this was a positive one. And it was kind of just nice to rest, to find more opportunities to be like doing nothing and to be like, I am totally okay with doing nothing, like going to the hot tub a lot, um, taking more lazy options in terms of like food delivery and stuff. It's fine. It's like fine to just do that occasionally, and this is a good excuse to do it. I also give myself carte blanche to like cancel on plans. Um, there, it ended up actually being like a very busy period of time. I had a lot going on over the last few days, the last week or so. But I didn't end up canceling anything. Ultimately, I always felt up for it. And like I said, it's not like the pain was ever excruciating. It was just annoying. It was just low key annoying and just made a lot of things like a little more painful than they ought to be. All right. But going hand in hand with this absence was a feeling of not being able to give up certain things. And what I mean by this is my phone. I realized really quickly that typically I use my phone with my right hand. That's my phone interface hand. That was bad. That it was causing me a lot of strain in my wrist, a lot of strain in my arm in general. Trying to hold the phone at the angle in which I could use it. If I was lying in bed, if I was just sitting in my chair, whatever. It was no good, and yet I could not stop. Even though I was passing up on other behaviors because I knew they would hurt my wrist, like let's say editing videos or reading or something, I was like, I better not because that will probably strain my wrist even though I want to. Here, I was scrolling Twitter, going through YouTube shorts, using my phone just as much, if not more, it filling in the gaps of these other activities I was sparing myself from. And I think my phone usage was like worse because before, I would typically like read manga on my phone or read more long form articles on my phone. At least occasionally, like my usage was split between that and things like Twitter or YouTube Shorts or whatever, or even just watching like long form videos on my phone, whatever. Now, because again, I had this mentality of like, oh, I should spare myself from strenuous things. If I'm going to read through this entire like 15-minute article on my phone, that's me using my phone for 15 minutes. That's no good. I would instead only look at Twitter, only look at YouTube Shorts, the most addictive, brain sucking forms of phone usage, and probably do them for way longer than I would have spent reading, say, 5 or 6 chapters of manga or something. So that was disturbing to kind of realize how addicted I was to using my phone in any capacity. Like I've tried to quit Twitter before, and I've had good streaks where I like quit it on my phone, and the amount that exposed to me how often I just take out my phone and look at it, it just in while I'm walking places, which is a horrible habit that I really need to get out of, because I fucking fell. I wasn't using my phone when I fell, but I should have been. Like, karmically, I should have been. And I'm setting myself up to fall again because it certainly leads to the rate of those things going up. But yeah, no, I'm bad. I look at my phone while I walk. Looking at my phone just while I'm waiting for anything, waiting for the elevator, riding the elevator, waiting at stores, whatever. Looking at my phone when I'm just like bumming around at home, in the between times of tasks, on the toilet, while I'm in bed. It's too much phone. Too much phone. Phone bad. Gotta sneeze. Oh my goodness. I have a hard time not looking at my phone when I'm watching anime or TV shows. I don't take it out in the movie theaters. That is a taboo that I've not succumbed to by, not even close. I'm not a heathen. But if I'm watching something at home, it's tough for me, to have my full absorption because I feel like I'm not missing that much if I'm also just kind of like idly doing a couple things on my phone at the same time, which is bad. It bothered me how prevalent it actually was. These moments of like trying to make some sort of break from it and realizing not only that I can't, but seeing clearly how much I was doing it before. And I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it, man. Because you like need your phone, and not to brag, but I'm like a pretty social person. Like I'm usually like talking to a lot of people, making plans, having to receive updates of things to know what's going on with blah blah blah. I end up doing a lot of work on my phone too, like answering Slack messages, answering emails, um, things like that constitute a lot of like the upkeep of work. So it's like I need to have it, and I do kind of need to check it pretty often, but I don't need to be like going on Twitter all the time. I don't need to be scrolling YouTube Shorts as much as I do. Especially when it was like making me sore, especially when it would like hurt my wrist. And I'd start to feel the pain, and the pain would linger after I stopped, and then I'd be like, why the hell did I do that? So this was very frustrating, and I don't really know what the answer is. Like, it's one where like there's definitely some habits that need to get replaced. Like I think it should be kind of like an additive positive thing where okay, instead of my phone, why not look at my Kindle? Instead of whipping out my phone, why not just listen to music? Or why not, I don't know, like I really don't know. Like I think it needs to be something along those lines that's like a replacement, because I don't think I'm going to be able to handle just like stop and do nothing. But I think there's probably some practices I can try to like break my addiction to it. I don't know if I'm throwing the word around addiction a lot. I am generally a subscriber of like a fairly strict definition of addiction, and you know it's not the phone is not heroin, but I don't really know what else to call it. It's so habitual. It happens so frequently without me even noticing. I don't know. And it's like I've admitted before that I'm addicted to my phone, but it's like this really showed it to me. And it's like, imagine it was worse. Imagine I was in a position where I was really like damaging myself to use my phone, just the same injury but worse or whatever. And it's like I don't know if I would have been able to break out of it. And you might be like, why don't you just use your left hand? And it's like, okay, well I could. Ooh, yeah, this feels bad. I can't. I gotta like do maneuvers to click the different parts. My thumb doesn't feel as articulate. So no, I would try. I would really try, or I would try to like prop it up or something so I didn't have to. But then I would always go back to the injured arm and make it worse. Following along with that, I started having moments of like intense dread and bad feelings, especially after a moment like that where I made myself hurt worse by using my phone or just doing anything else that in retrospect I shouldn't have with that arm. And like I said, I haven't really had an injury like this since I was a kid. The worst is that I'd like thrown my shoulder out once at a concert because I was waving my arm too hard. It's when I got a good ice pack that I've been using a lot. And, you know, I've had like bumps and bruises and stuff. One time I fell on my back, which hurt pretty badly, knocked the wind out of me. But I was like totally fine the next morning. I think what stuck with me is that this felt like the first like injury I had in my 30s. And I started to fear that it may just like never get better. That, you know, you hear all sorts of people say, oh, I got a bad back, oh, I got a bad shoulder, I got a bad knee. And most of them, it's like it started with some injury that they hurt themselves and then it just never was right again. And then I started to think, like, what if this is now just like my bad shoulder? And for the rest of my life, I'm going to be saying, oh, yeah, I got a bad shoulder. I can't, like, lift it up that high. I can't really reach behind me because I got a bad shoulder. And that freaks me out. And honestly, saying it now, it freaks me out because I'm not, like, totally in the clear yet. Like, it still kind of hurts. And I still can't reach behind me the way I used to. I have every reason to think it'll keep getting better. It's not like the rate of improvement has stopped yet or slowed. Every morning I wake up and it's limberer and less painful than before. But the prospect of that, like, really freaks me out. And the thing is, it's like, if it's not this one, it's some other one. I just kind of have to accept it rather than just hoping that I'll go the entire rest of my life without ever falling down again or without ever succumbing to any sort of injury. I think is futile. Um, so it's like, this is part of aging. This is part of aging that everyone experiences, is a loss of the litheness and capability that you have in your youth. That eventually the set of things you do just starts to narrow physically. And I knew this to be true, and I had already, like, experienced it because I'm overweight, right? Like, I gained quite a lot of weight over the last, like, 5 years or so. And I know that, like, walking long distances I'm not as good at. I can't run as fast or as far as I used to. Playing, like, DDR, ITG, stuff like that doesn't as come as easily as it used to. But that had, like, a very singular isolated source, which is that I gained a lot of weight. And it didn't really feel like a component of aging, it felt like a component of overeating. So it didn't really hit me that way. Because I think in the back of my mind, I was always like, well, if this really bothered me, I'd probably be trying to lose weight more than I am. And it doesn't really bother me that much, and it is what it is. But the idea of it just slipping away, things that I am accustomed to, things that I take for granted, and not really having it through any fault of my own, not having it as a consequence of any choice, but as just something that happens to me, really freaked me out. um, it just kind of felt like a true grim reminder of my own mortality, which is something that, you know, my relationship with my own inevitable death has gone up and down many times over the years. From as a little kid, you know, it freaking me the F out and causing me to lose sleep and panic and have anxiety attacks and stuff, to other times where, not to get to become a bummer or whatever, but I was like, fine, good. Had enough of this shit. But now, you know, at a time where I'm very, very happy with my life and I kind of just want things to largely stay the same for as long as they can, this feeling of like, oh no, this is all gonna end someday. And before it does, it's gonna be like a big decline in a lot of ways, um, that you really can only do so much to fight against. Made me feel really terrible. And it felt as close as I can remember in my adult life to feeling like a little kid and being like actually terrified of death once more. Now I'm 34. It's a long way away. And I'm sure in the future, in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, I if I ever revisit these themes, these feelings, if I get injured again, it's going to be totally different. And I'm not going to presume that I'll know how it'll feel then, if it'll feel better, if it'll feel worse, whatever. But this is just how it's feeling now, and it's a bad feeling. And even talking about it now, I'm like, that doesn't feel great. But what it drove home to me is like, I said there's not that much you can do to fight it, aging, but there is some stuff. I think more than any other thing, this has made me feel like I should get in shape. Not even like losing weight necessarily, but just doing exercise and getting mobile, as much flexibility as I can, more strength and everything, working out, doing something, having some sort of regimen, I think it's very easy for me to feel motivated about that because I can't do it right now. I surely need to heal a little more before I step into something like that. Maybe that's the wrong attitude. Maybe I actually should be looking into like physiotherapy or something right now and using that as a way to help me heal and then transitioning from that into an exercise routine or something. I don't know. Now that I said that out loud, yeah, that actually sounds very true. I should do that. But yeah, I feel a lot more gung-ho than I have in a long time about getting back to the gym. Another thing that coincided with this, like the day before I got injured, I was talking to my younger cousin, and she started seeing a personal trainer that she goes to the gym and she has sessions where somebody just like tells her what to do and makes sure she's doing it right and tells her how many times to do it and like tailors it to how well she's doing and presumably has talked with her about what kind of goals and stuff she has. And she's finding it like a very, very positive experience, insofar as like she'd always felt very overwhelmed by the gym. She never really felt secure in what she was doing. She never really knew where where she should be prioritizing, if she was going to get the effects that she wanted to. And that this was basically kind of just like both a confidence booster and an obligator, that once you've paid for the sessions, it's like, oh, well, you better show up. You've paid for them. And it's expensive, but I did find out when talking to her, it's not as expensive as I thought it would be. It's well within my affordability. So yeah, I might do that, and that I think would be a very great positive outcome of this. I'm definitely gonna look into it at least. So I don't know, fitness era. Let's go. I don't really know what my goals are. I think my goals are like, I don't want to get injured again. I know there's no exercise you can do that like stops you from falling down, but maybe there's exercises you can do that stops you from rolling your ankle so easily, or gives you more balance to not fall all the way the fuck down when you fall. I don't know, like, or just any other sort of injury. Like, you know, you go through life, you're picking stuff up and moving stuff, and one day you pick something up and you go, oh, my back, you know, that cliche. How do I avoid that? I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to pick stuff up. So yeah. Really just got me thinking about a lot of this stuff in both very miserable, very scary ways, but also sometimes in kind of productive, hopeful ways, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot to dread about aging, in terms of this kind of like physical limitation and stuff, but why not give yourself the best shot? Why not give yourself a good foundation, so that when you age, you're more ready for it. Finally, to end things on a nice note, this experience also gave me a very beautiful, profound feeling of epiphany, which I don't think needed me to severely injure my arm to accomplish, but it happened to. So the Wednesday after I fell, like 2 days later, my mom was coming into Toronto to see a concert. She was seeing David Byrne. It turned out to be a fantastic concert. She was overjoyed. But she was going to stay at my place that night. Now, my mom and I get along really, really well. We have a great relationship. But we do, like, bicker a lot. We often find ourselves just disagreeing about something and not really being able to let it go. And one of the evergreen topics that we bicker about is the cleanliness of my apartment. Like I said in the Life Stats video, I have a hard time keeping up on a lot of chores in my apartment. I think it's like a mix of just being busy, always having something that I'd rather be doing, just not enjoying doing it, and just not caring. Like, really having a lot of indifference to things like mess or dirtiness. But my mom, who is not a clean freak by any stretch of the imagination, but is definitely someone who has a tier higher, maybe 2 or 3 tiers higher expectations of cleanliness, is always annoyed by this, always a little put off, will always make comments and stuff, and that always leads to bickering. Where I just say, like, mind your own business. I'm giving you a place to stay. You can crash on the futon. What more do you want? I don't know. So yeah, it leads to bickering. So I always make an effort to clean before my mom gets here. That's actually the most reliable kind of forcing function that gets me to clean. And I had also implemented this weeklies system, the weekly checklist of stuff I wanted to do. One of the things on there was doing like a big clean, like tackling the bathroom or the countertops or my closet or whatever. And that was actually going pretty well. I was 100% on doing at least one major clean each week. So I was like, piece of cake. Things will be good for when my mom gets here. I got the bathroom done. I got most of the actual like cleaning stuff done. The only thing that was left was like tidying, just getting stuff off the table, putting stuff away, you know, organizing things. And I was like, yeah, that's no big deal. I'll just do that like the day before she gets here, so there's no chance for another mess to accumulate. But then, of course, I injured myself, and I was in no position to be, you know, picking stuff up, moving stuff around. It's going to be a big pain. So I told her that. She made some joke about, you found a real extreme way to get out of it or whatever, but it was all good. She shows up. The apartment is extremely cluttered. The table is covered with stuff. The side table is covered with stuff. Stuff everywhere. And she says, because the pattern is I'll clean, she'll come over, she'll still find stuff to complain about, we'll still bicker, she'll offer to help me clean, and that just gets me more frustrated, and I reject her help and say it's just not a big deal. Who cares? So yet again, she makes some comments or whatever. She says, well, do you want me to help you clean? Like, let's tackle this. Like, you can't move that well, but I can do it. And that Saturday, there's a Halloween party that my friend was having. A whole bunch of my friends from out of town were attending. And 4 of them were going to stay over at my apartment. So it's like, I really, really do need to tidy up because they're going to have all their stuff, their costumes, their overnight bags, blah, blah, blah. They need space. So, like, at that point, I realized, like, I have to accept your help. I have to say, okay, let's work on this. You can help me clean. And that felt really terrible. That felt like a huge personal failing. And I realized that it really shouldn't. I realized that this was actually something that I was very, very sensitive about. And honestly, I can tell already that if I keep talking about it, I might get a little emotional. Warning to whatever. But I think it was just a reflection of like growing up just with my dad. And my dad is like a self-admitted hoarder. So our house was always like hella messy. And then having a feeling of like prideful indifference where I didn't want to admit that I was doing something wrong or my dad was doing something wrong or that something wrong was happening in general, that there was something sub-ideal about the house being such a mess. So I had to just kind of convince myself that this is all good, this is totally fine, this is the way I want it. And that admitting that I need help to clean it, to me, was like admitting that I've just been accepting something I disliked. And I don't think it really is all that. Like, I do think, and for better or worse, growing up like that made me genuinely indifferent to stuff like messiness and untidiness and stuff. But I think despite that, it took me a long time to recognize, like, even if that's the case, it is better if it's nice. It is better if it's cleaned. It is better if it's organized. I will be happier even if this isn't making me unhappy. A very kind of like middle ground, nuanced statement that took me a long time to admit to myself because I really clung to the feeling of this needs to be an absolute acceptance of a mess or an absolute rejection where I keep it flawlessly clean or whatever. But that's not how anybody lives. That's not how I ought to be living. And what I realized too is that I had always felt like my mom was judging me and criticizing me when she pointed out messes or just asked questions or offered help. It felt very, very critical. And I would just like shut it down as quickly as possible because, like, evidently it makes me very emotional to feel like my mom was judging me or criticizing me. I think, I don't know, I think because, like, well, like, nobody wants to be judged or criticized. I think maybe it's not even like an unreasonable amount of skepticism of sensitivity to that. But I was just very sensitive to that. So she was just like, okay, how about you handle like sorting these things out and putting them away in boxes, and then I'll handle just like clearing off the table and like moving stuff to wherever it belongs. I'll just ask you where it belongs, and if there's no spot where it belongs, let's just make a spot. A good system. And then it became like I felt really like neglectful. I don't think I have ADHD. Not that badly, at least. But one symptom of ADHD that I really struggle with is sort of like an out of sight, out of mind thinking, where if I have something like a food product I bought or a household product I bought or something I was supposed to do something with or whatever, and I put it away in a drawer or it just gets covered up by other stuff, it just becomes in a pile of stuff, I forget all about it. And it's like if you told me, oh, hey, can you grab such and such a thing that you bought, obviously I'd remember and find it and know what to do with it, but it'll just like sit there, and then I won't really process it again until there's some like reason to. So I started feeling like really guilty and really ashamed because she'd be like, okay, like what's this food thing? Like, are you gonna eat it? And she meant like, should I leave it out because you're gonna eat it soon, or should we find a spot to put it away or whatever? And then I would just be like, oh my god, I forgot I bought that. That was because I thought I would make like some dessert or something. Or I just thought I'd be in the mood for it or whatever. And that feels really bad because like wasting food I always feel really, really bad about. So like the feeling of the food expiring without me noticing or going stale or whatever, it just feels very, very bad. And again, I just felt like very ashamed, and I felt judged and criticized. And I started crying at that time too. And I just said straight up, like, it feels like you're criticizing me. It feels like you're like saying these things, and the implication is like, how could you forget? How could you screw this up or whatever? But she was like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. Like, I'm really, really not. I'm just trying to help. And this is what I realized, that there's like a lot of situations where for some reason I think my mom is criticizing me, and she's not. She's just like genuinely trying to make a suggestion, trying to help me out, just trying to ask a question that will, like, there's no judgment at all. And then we talked about that, and she realized that for her too, that's how she thinks her mom is speaking when her mom talks to her, and comments on stuff like that. That it's judgmental. That it's saying, "Why are you doing this wrong?" So it's a multi generational issue, is what we realized. And I don't know. For me, it felt like a pretty major emotional epiphany where I really rethought a lot of the dynamics between me and my mom. And times where we bicker, times when I get upset at her. I think it's really often from a place where we're perceiving something as judgmental, we're perceiving something as critical, when it's not. And I don't know, that was like pretty huge. That was pretty huge. So we kept cleaning. I don't know. I was still pretty emotional. I cried a bit more, but it was a really good experience. We got things cleaned up to a pretty unprecedented level. Um, and I don't know. Like, I still felt really embarrassed because it's not like I have a big apartment. It's not like I work like a 9 to 5 at an office. I work from home. I have every capability to clean. But in that moment, because I was hurt, because I was injured, because there was a lot of stuff I just straight up couldn't do, I felt willing to say, I just find it overwhelming, the amount of cleaning I have to do. I just find it unmanageable, the amount of chores I have to do. And that was very, very true in the moment because I was injured. But I think that allowed me to admit that, like, I'm just not good at this stuff. And I just don't have the habits. And I just don't have the impetus. And it is too much for me. I'm just bad at it. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I find it, like, embarrassing. Because I'm like, well, it's not that hard to clean. It's not. Like, I just. It felt so freeing to just say, I can't do it. It's not. To not have, like, an endless series of excuses, to not have a facade of indifference, but to just say, like, straight up, no, like, I just can't handle it. I can't handle keeping the whole thing clean. And I don't know, it was very embarrassing, but, like, very freeing. And in general, it just made me think, like, I think it's really good to have moments of vulnerability in, like, every relationship, whether it's family, parents, kids, colleagues, romance, friends, any close relationship. I think it's good for both sides of it at times to have moments of vulnerability, to have moments where you just say, I need help because I can't do this. And, like, I think the need part of that is really important because, you know, it's one thing to say, I want help with this. It would be convenient if you helped me with this. Or you're really good at this, so how about you help me with this? Doing favors for people, like doing, you know, above and beyond or whatever. Things to just make people happy. That's great. That's already there. I already have that with lots of people all the time, in both directions. That's you know that's like day to day. But, like, a moment where you really ask a lot of someone, maybe not even a lot, but you just ask of someone and you just straight up say, I can't do this. I need you to help me. I think feels very, very different Because I think, and I knew this quite well, the feeling of being needed, the feeling of like being the one for someone in that time, knowing that you are the one that is gonna like get them out of this problem, this very real problem. It's very, very affirming. It's like the sort of thing that you can really trust down the line when you're feeling shaky about yourself, when you're feeling not so great about your self-esteem and your self-image. It's a source of self-compassion to know that you were really relied upon by someone else. And to give that opportunity to someone, I think, is a gift. To allow those moments of vulnerability into your lives and not avoid them and not deny them and not be stubborn about them, to not downplay them, but to come at them with like arms wide open, you know? Shout outs to Creed. And be like, yeah, I can't do this right now and I need to do it. It's extremely powerful. Like, I don't know. It had been like a long time, I think, since I really felt like that, and just kind of. No, there's probably been other times. I don't know. It's like different though. It's different when you're hurt, and it's different than like, hey, can you give me a ride? Like, yeah, if like I don't know, I needed a ride back from like my cottage or something. If somebody doesn't give me a ride, I'm boned. I'm stuck there. So that's like a need. That feels a little different. It's like an intimacy or something. Or like, shoot, I don't have time before this meeting to do this thing. Can you do it for me? That's like a need, you know. You need to get it done. But then it's kind of just like, yeah, no problem, I'll do it. That happens at work like once a week at least, in both directions. But this is different. This is, I don't know. It was really powerful. And it's weird because it's not like you can orchestrate these things. Like, I really feel convinced that it is very, very valuable and can lead to some like very deep epiphanies about any relationship that you're in. But it's not like you can spam it and try to get one for like every relationship you're in. It's not like you can scheme to put yourself in a position of true vulnerability. By definition, you just can't. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That's about all I had to say. Wrap this one up in about an hour. Like I said, I'm feeling pretty good now. It's like mostly out of the works. So I do want to get back to making videos, which is one of the things I put off. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm excited to do it. So see you on the next one, which will be a One Piece reaction. Okay, bye.